The district attorney has to protect our citizens who are getting on the bus, who are going to the Mac machine, the ATMs. He's got to protect those people who are being carjacked. He's got to protect our kids when they're going to the playground or walking home from school, when we're letting them walk to the corner store. He's got to protect our citizens much better than he has. He really hasn't done it, and that's why I'm going to get off the steps, off the bench, to make sure that somebody tries to make our city safer. So I was born in Fairmount, in Philadelphia. I was about 10 years old. My mom moved us up to Frankfurt, right at the Margaret Orthodox L stop. 5 children, single mother by then, and she raised us, working 2 jobs, struggling, but always trying to teach us the right thing. When I was in Fairmount as a kid in the 60s, there was a lot of racial tension going on in the city. And we were sitting on the steps on 2211 Parish Street. And a young kid of color riding his bike was being chased by a bunch of old heads in the neighborhood with a board from the police barricades, those big old yellow boards that were out there, particularly years ago. They caught him and they started beating this little kid, all these older teenagers. My mother jumped off the steps, ran down, got between that board and that little kid and protected him, pushed those teenagers away, brought that little kid on our steps, protected him, brought his bike over until the police arrived. My mother showed me there are times you have to get up off the steps, no matter what the repercussions, the ramifications could be. So my mother showed me what we're supposed to do. My mom is my hero. And the way she raised me and my siblings, that's the kind of life that I try to live. So we moved to Frankfurt. I wound up going to St. Joachim's, graduated from there. A nun forced me to take the entrance exam to St. Joe's Prep. The nun paid the $10. I took the entrance exam, scored very well. They had this program where they were helping poor inner city kids who scored well on tests go to the prep. So it cost $75 for me to go to St. Joe's Prep in 1975. So my mother said, "Pat, you're going to the prep." I had no idea what the prep was, and I loved it. The prep also molded me. The prep is, the motto is men for others. I was also blessed enough that we won the city championship in football in 1977. Those men that I went to the prep with now, were many years later, are my best friends. So the prep molded me. My mother's my hero. I wound up going into the Army. I went to college for a little bit at St. Joe's. And college, I wasn't ready for college in my mind. I wound up going in the Army. Wound up being an airborne infantryman. So I was a vet, went around the world for 6 years, 82nd Airborne Division. I was along the DMZ in South Korea with the 2nd Infantry Division. I was with an airborne infantry unit, the 1st 508, down in Panama for 2 years. So I wound up doing 6 years airborne infantryman. We were the toughest, we were the baddest. And frankly, in the infantry, there were some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, including lawyers, judges, super rich business owners, CFOs, CEOs. Some of the most intelligent men I've ever met in my life were in the infantry with me, enlisted men. So my dad, and God rest his soul, because we had a good relationship later on in life, but as a child, my father was a better uncle than he was a dad. So him and my mom split up, and it was basically my mom taking care of us. So later on, as a young adult and a man, my father and I got a great relationship. So my father was an operating engineer for 50 years, but my mom worked at Tasty Cake. She was a waitress, a bartender. I actually know what food stamps are, all that colored money back in the day, because that's what helped us put groceries on our table. My mother, with 5 children and working all these jobs, eventually in her mid-40s got a degree in drug and alcohol counseling. And then she wound up she worked for a place called Shalom. She would go into schools to teach kids through puppets, talking about if somebody is touching you inappropriately, who do you tell? She also dealt with a lot of people who were struggling with drugs and alcohol. She was part of counseling them. So my mom pulled put herself up, by her bootstraps to make a hell of a life and to take care of her children and to teach us, ethics, morals, respect, manners. So again, my mother's my hero. And I'm blessed that later on when I became a judge, my mom was dying. She had cancer. And, when you become a judge, it's a coronation, inauguration where you're in a big ceremonial courtroom. You got Governor Rendell there, Congressman Brady, all these, quote, dignitaries. My mom was in a jury box in front of all three major channels in Philadelphia with the TV there. I was able to tell everybody how my mother was my hero and how much she meant to me while she was alive. So I was able to basically eulogize her in front of her and tell all my friends and family how much she meant to, my life and my siblings' lives. I am the second. So it was my brother Jimmy, then me, then my three sisters, Michelle, Dawn, and Melissa. My brother died in 1981 of melanoma, skin cancer. We were sort of Irish twins. We were a year apart, and it was always Pat and Jimmy, Jimmy and Pat. And he had a mole on his left side, and after they took it off and they biopsied it, it was December 23rd. He was dead March 23rd, 3 months later. So it was devastating to our family. Today, at my age, I'm 64 now, and I think about the 40 plus years that I've had more than my brother. So there are times where it really gets me moving to say, you know what? You got to stop complaining. Your brother only had 22 years on this earth, and look at all the extra time that I've had. I have children and grandchildren and my ups and downs in my life. So it just motivates me to understand that I got to keep pushing, live life to its fullest. And that's what I'm trying to do. I decided to become a lawyer after I was working at Smokey Joe's at Villanova. I just got out of the Army. I was back in college going to Westchester to be a teacher. And I'm bartending on a Monday night. I'm bartending every night because to pay for college, whatnot. And I'm bartending on a Monday night, and all the law students are coming in there to drink with my bartending partner, Mike Burns. And I'm talking to all these law students on Monday night, and I'm saying, Mike, so these guys are going to be lawyers someday? And I'm serving them drinks. So it's kind of, we were bantering back and forth. So Mike said, well, have you ever taken the LSATs? And I said, no, I never took the LSATs. He goes, well, why don't you take them? I took the LSATs kind of on a dare, and I scored very high. And I'm a couple credits short of a degree from Westchester. So I applied to law school and got in. So it was kind of on a whim and a bet with it in the back of my mind. I wound up going to law school. I went to Rutgers Camden in the gritty urban area of Camden, New Jersey. And the first day of law school, somebody busted in my car and stole my radio. So I wanted the urban grittiness. I got it. In 2007, I was actually on my way back from Afghanistan. I had deployed to Iraq in 2004, and in 2006, 2007, I went to Afghanistan. I am down at Fort Benning, Georgia, processing out of the Army because I'm coming back. I'm in the reserves at this point. So I am processing out. I get a call from the governor, Governor Ed Rendell. I'm going to appoint you as a judge. Are you okay with that? So this was in July. The process, we went through that. And in August, I was a judge sitting on the Philadelphia Municipal Court. Then 2 years later, I had to run. So that was 2007. In 2009, I had to run for a full election, and I did win a 6-year term. Pennsylvania became one of the leaders in the nation with how many veterans courts we had at that time. The first one that I'm aware of was in Buffalo, New York. A friend of mine, I got to know him very well. He became a mentor of mine. Robert Russell started a veterans court in 2008. I saw the article, so I started asking if we could do one in Philly. We were able to start one in 2010. I was the first judge to do it, and that was with the help of Justice Seamus McCaffrey and Chief Justice Ron Castile. McCaffrey was a Marine Corps and an Air Force veteran, and Castile was a Marine who lost one of his legs in Vietnam. So they said, just start the damn thing, and we did, and it's been a great success over the years. Holistic type of approach to criminal justice. We bring in wraparound services. We help the veteran get the benefits at the VA. We bring in outside social workers to help them with anger. We appoint them a mentor, a fellow veteran. So we do all kinds of programs with them. Recidivism rate is less than 10%, so it's worked. One of the problems is recently, though, with the district attorney the last 7 years, our numbers have gone down tremendously because Mr. Krasner doesn't believe in most of these diversion programs because he's not arresting people. Our veterans are still committing crimes. They're still getting in trouble with the law, but they're not being processed. They're not being charged to come in front of us for us to help them. They're being left lingering out there on places like Kensington Avenue, shooting up heroin and whatnot. So these programs work. My peers, 27 fellow judges, elected me to be their leader, to be their president judge. So for a 5-year term, and within a month of me taking over, we had a computer incursion. You know, we had people hacking, shut our system down, and then COVID hit, civil unrest. So I was like a wartime president. COVID, the world stopped. We couldn't process any more cases. The men and women were stuck in the jails. I went up to the prisons with only a mask. Remember now, nobody knew what was going on with COVID. There weren't vaccinations yet, whatnot. I went into the jails to have these hearings for these men and women to have their day in court sooner rather than later. Because again, they're just lingering, they're in purgatory. So we opened up a court in the prisons, in the jail cells. We piped in through Zoom and televisions the victims and the witnesses who were located somewhere else so that we could do these cases. Other judges, after I started this, they came up there and presided as well in order that we could dispense justice in a timely manner. So for 17 years, I was a judge and I absolutely loved my job. It was a passion of mine. I loved the programs I was involved in. To have people come up to you, defendants, after you're done with their case and they say, "Judge, you saved my life. I'm reunited with my family." It meant a lot to me. But for the last 7 years with the current district attorney in office, the criminal justice system has basically gone into the toilet. No longer do they really prosecute crimes. The withdrawal rate, meaning a case is charged and now it's in front of a judge, and then a district attorney office pretty much goes, "Never mind, we're not ready, we can't find a witness, we decided to drop the charges." So 700 out of 1,000 crimes charged, the DA comes in and says, "Never mind," right? And then out of those cases that move forward, those other 300 cases, or the 30%, they are losing them at a huge margin. So by the time you get this done, it's like carjackings. 79% of carjackings in Philadelphia go unpunished. It's ludicrous. The retail theft policy that Mr. Krasner put in effect, so he was elected, he became the district attorney in January of 2018. February of 2018, he put out a new executive order from Larry Krasner, basically wiping away the retail theft statute. This is the law that comes out of Harrisburg, signed by the Senate and the House and the governor. And he basically wiped it off, and he said anybody who steals anything below $499, basically Larry said, it's okay to steal. It's on me. It's free. This is what this guy was telling the whole city. So just before Larry became the district attorney, there were over 7,000 retail theft incidences reported. At that time, there was a 23% arrest rate. So not happy about that either. Last year, there were over 22,000 reported retail thefts in the city of Philadelphia with an arrest rate of 2%. Why is the arrest rate so low? Because when the police would be called by the store and they would come and apprehend somebody, charge them, Larry would refuse to press charges. So the police stopped responding because they were picking somebody up and Krasner would decline prosecution. He said we were going to give them a ticket. That never happened. So retail theft was a freebie. CVS's, our shelves are empty. Rite Aid's looking like they're going to be leaving our city soon. Wawa invested $100 million in Center City for 9 Wawas. They're all closed because of the retail theft incidents. They can't sustain 1,000 retail theft incidents each month. Macy's, the cornerstone of Philadelphia retail, the old Wanamaker building, they shut down. They shut down because they had a security guard killed, but they also shut down because of the thousands of incidents of retail thefts in that store alone. Just imagine what that mom and pop store are doing. They can't afford to have somebody come in and steal a bottle of soda and a bag of chips, let alone $499. So when he just unilaterally makes these decisions, he's undermining the whole system. And this is across the board, the violence. Drug sales, so he thinks that anybody who uses drugs should be able to just use it in public, make a neighborhood the victim, like in Kensington. But even worse than that is he allowed people to stand on the corner and sell drugs. You could stand up in Kensington with bundles and bundles of heroin and make money with zero repercussions because, again, the police arrest, he would refuse to charge. He must want anarchy, or he's the most, bewildered, confused, mismanager, just doesn't know what he's doing, or he's doing it on purpose. I'm not sure which one is worse, but he is allowing the anarchy and insanity to continue. In fact, he's the cause of it in many instances. The University of Pennsylvania Law School just did a study that was released in 2024. And in that study, they actually say that Larry Krasner is responsible for up to 75 extra murders a year. Criminals have to be held accountable, particularly these people running around here with guns and robbing innocent civilians. We cannot be friendly to those people. Bad actors need to be prosecuted. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. People deserve second chances, but not people running around sticking up our neighbors or shooting our neighbors. We have to do things collaboratively. The mayor and Commissioner Bethel need a partner. Commissioner Bethel came out of retirement. He was the head of the school police. He was in there with some very innovative ways of trying to stop the youth from committing crimes, nonviolent ways. So we need men and women like that with these forward thinking. But also both Bethel and Parker, Mayor Parker, have said, we need to prosecute crime. We need to charge them. We need to arrest them. Larry doesn't believe in that, so he's not a partner, and I will work with the community as well. The community needs to be engaged as well. Larry's even stopped that kind of communication. We used to have assistant district attorneys assigned geographically throughout the city so that if somebody was assigned to Southwest Philly, the folks in that area knew who the assistant district attorney was, usually a senior person, and they could talk about the nuisance crimes, the issues going on in a certain corner because there's gangs there. There are, these folks that are harassing our elderly, our seniors when they're going to the grocery store. There was communication so that then they could collaborate with the police department and the community and then try to assist in stopping the next action by somebody who's trying to bring ill upon the community. He wiped that out on day one, brought all those attorneys back into the office. So the communication, the intel for gangs kind of went away. He's trying to bring it back, but it's 7 years late, Larry. You should have kept it in play because maybe our murder rate would have started going down instead of going through the roof. Over 3,000 murders while Larry was the district attorney. He doesn't understand what it is to grow up in a gritty city like Philadelphia. He doesn't know what the 15 trolley car is unless he's riding by with his detail. So, and he has a disconnect with the regular people. He doesn't have empathy or sympathy for the families of murder victims. Not my words. These are the words of the murder victims' families who he doesn't communicate with. His office, now they just put an emphasis on victims advocates recently. Yeah, it's an election year. Of course he did. But for 7 years, you've ignored these families. And what happens is their loved one gets killed. There's a couple of hearings, court dates. Your district attorney stopped communicating with the family. The family reads about the final verdict. They read about the sentencing in the paper because you never communicated with them that the hearing was next week or last week. So they read about it and they're appalled, they're shocked. That's against the law because the victims have a Bill of Rights. You're supposed to keep them informed on every stage of a criminal case. He doesn't do it. I can only come to the conclusion that he lacks empathy and compassion for these families. And is that because of where he grew up? I don't know. But I know where I grew up. I care about those folks and I want to help them. Unfortunately, in the city of Philadelphia, the primary group of folks who are doing the killings, young men from, let's say, 16 to 28, they've done a pretty damn good job of killing each other. So now, as these younger kids are coming up, I'm afraid, and I hope and pray that we could figure out a way that it doesn't tick back up. But social media, absolutely. There are places online where you can go and you could see these kids holding guns after they kill somebody. I mean, their minds are not developed yet. They're posting that you get points because I killed a rival. I killed somebody who lives across the street. I killed somebody who goes to a different high school. They post this stuff up and it's out there and it just feeds itself. They want more clicks. Somebody disses them on social media. Oh, you got to make it right. Years ago when we were kids, you're at a playground, you disrespect somebody, maybe you roll around on the ground for a few minutes, throw some punches. You get up, you go back and play basketball or baseball again with the same person you just fistfought. Now, with social media, the prevalence of guns, all these kids have guns. How the hell did they get these guns? Parents, we need to step up, look under the bed, get rid of the damn gun. We have to step up as a society. We have to get these kids before they're in high school because they're starting. These gangs are recruiting them at a much younger age. These folks that are out there are hardened criminals are looking for these kids to be the shooters, to go shoot up a corner, give them a couple $100. I mean, this is stuff that's been going on. We have to look as law enforcement to social media to stop it before it happens.
Do you have a plan for Kensington?
So I like the fact that they actually started trying to move folks out of there because all we were doing is allowing the folks who are up there using drugs to continue to be victims, but also the neighborhood. That neighborhood is a victim. And they've been crying for years for people to come in and help. So I'm glad to see that the mayor and the police commissioner have started to do something. What I would like to do is put a program that we've had for a long time. It's called Alternative Misdemeanor Program that we were running out of 3901 Whitaker, the police station. And I offered to Mr. Krasner, so we would have judges up there out at the court for 2 or 3 days a week. And I offered Larry basically 10 days a week. I said, we'll give you 2 judges, 5 days a week. We could handle all the people who are using the drugs, all these other misdemeanor crimes, because in that courtroom, we would have a nurse, we would have a mental health specialist, we had folks who, substance abuse, whatever the issue that a person would bring in, we would assess and try to help them. And the program was working. We'd bring these people back week after week, and you could see them start to become a lot cleaner than they were the first day we met them. Some of them get reunited with their families. So I would just reinforce that type of program. I would also continue to push for better training for the police officers. We expect them to be supermen and superwomen. I know we turned a corner. They're getting mental health training so that when they're dealing with somebody in the throes of mental health issues, they can identify it and get them help. They know how to deal with folks who are in the throes of addiction, the Narcan training, the lesser use of force when you have an issue with somebody. So we're getting much better at that, and we need to partner more and more with each other. But there's been a huge fracture between the district attorney and the police department. So the communication, police are the main witness in almost every case in the city. If the district attorney's office is not communicating with those officers, these cases fall apart. Larry doesn't care. I think that's what he's been trying to do. We have to make our city prosperous again. Again, with all these stores closing, all these boarded up stores, these lower end type of retail now taking over Center City, people not feeling safe. So from all our surrounding collar counties, people don't feel safe coming down to dinner in town anymore. I mean, you went to the the Christmas bazaar, the holiday bazaar village outside of City Hall, and there was a shooting there. I mean, we can't have that. We have to prosecute criminals who are doing ill to our folks, to the people who are visiting Philadelphia, to the people who live here. We have to make it safer for developers, for people to build. And what's happening there is the developers, the realtors, the unions, they're supporting me because people are jumping over construction sites and stealing their tools, taking the metal, and they're not being prosecuted. They get grabbed, and the very next day they're back because there's been no charges filed. So the developers, the builders, the realtors, it's not working in Philadelphia right now. We have to get better at that so we bring prosperity because we have a better tax base. We could help train the police better. We can help clean the streets better. We could public transportation will work better. We need to start making it safer, cleaner, greener, as the mayor said. We will work together to make this happen. What I want to accomplish is I want to make the city of Philadelphia much safer. Too many people in the city of Philadelphia are victims of violent crimes. If you think you're safer, okay, then I guess you're not going to vote for me. If you're not safer, I need you to vote on May 20th. That's the Democratic primary. You could actually get a mail-in ballot sooner than that. So it can come in the mail and you can send it right back. I have a website. It's judgeduganforda.com. There's a lot of information about me. You can send questions in if you want, if you're not satisfied with a couple of the answers I have. I just want to make the city of Philadelphia safer for our kids, our grandchildren, the future, for the bus drivers, for the paramedics who get beat up and then the case never goes to court, for all these murder victims, and for these business owners. I just want to make it safer. Let's make a change in Philadelphia because we could do a hell of a lot better than these past 7 years.